Shalom once again, Israel. Once again, um, I am discussing the Ezekiel the 37th chapter, the Valley of Dry Bones. And if you looked at the first video, you would know that I had gotten up to like the 17th verse. But in order for me to move forward, I'm going to drop back to the 16th verse and move forward from there because I want to take from here and bring in the history and how all this are coming about so that we can dispense with the thing of these were literal bones. And as we know now that they are not literal bones, but they are the house of Israel. So, that being said, okay, verse 16, moreover, son of man, take unto thee one stick and write upon it for Judah. Now, as I said, Judah is um, the head of the southern kingdom, or was the head of the southern kingdom at the time, which comprised of the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin. Also, after Rehoboam, which we're going to see in a few minutes, in a little while, Jeroboam brought in idolatry with the northern kingdom. Then the children of Levi, who had the priesthood or performed the acts of the priesthood, they basically left the tribe of Ephraim, the northern kingdom, and came to Judah, the southern kingdom. So then you have Judah, which is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. All right. So right upon the stick, or one stick, right upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel, his companies. So the children of Israel, his companies, Judah was the tribe, and the children of Israel, his companies, was the tribe of Benjamin and the tribe of Levi. Okay? So right upon for Judah the stick, and for the children of Israel his companies. Then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph, Joseph being the son of Jacob that was sold into slavery in Egypt. So write upon it for another stick, and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim. Ephraim was one of the sons. You had Ephraim and Manasseh, who was two of the sons of Joseph. Okay, so and the stick from Ephraim, and for all of the house of Israel, his companions. So you had the other nine after Levi left and went to the southern kingdom. So then you had nine tribes left in the northern kingdom. Okay? So that's what he's saying. On the next stick, you write for Ephraim, and for the children of Israel, their companions. So you have Ephraim, and then you have all the tribes of Israel, the other 8 tribes of Israel, which with Ephraim comprised of 9 tribes. They comprise the northern kingdom. The northern kingdom. So at this time, Israel is broken down into 2 nations. They were not one nation. They were broken down into 2 nations. You had one, the southern kingdom, which comprised of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And then you had the northern kingdom, which comprised of Ephraim and the other 8 tribes. Okay? 2 separate kingdoms. That's why Israel had 2 kings at once. They had 2 kings at once. Because the southern kingdom had a king, the northern kingdom had a king. Now, let's move on. So I'm just trying to lay it out so that there's a good understanding about what's being said here. So, okay. And join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in my hand. So the Lord is saying, now you take the southern kingdom, you take the northern kingdom. Now you take 2 sticks, you write the name of the southern kingdom, you write the name of the northern kingdom, and you put them 2 sticks together, and the Lord said they will be one in his hand, meaning that the 2 nations, he's going to bring the 2 nations back together again. Because Judah did not fool with the northern kingdom, because they were into idolatry and things like that. And the northern kingdom was considered by the southern kingdom, the Jews, as being Gentiles. Not only did they live amongst the Gentiles, but they practiced the ways of the Gentiles. Therefore, they were looked at as being Gentiles also. So, but what I want to do is bring a little history to establish these 2 verses, 16 and 17. So let me drop back here. Let me drop back here to Second Chronicles. I'm just going to Second Chronicles chapter 11. And I'm going to just read verses 1 through 5. Okay. And when Rehoboam was come to Jerusalem, he gathered of the house of Judah and Benjamin 180,000 chosen men, which were warriors to fight. Which was warriors to fight against Israel, that he might bring the kingdom again to Rehoboam. Now, Rehoboam here is the son of Solomon, and now the kingdom is split. After Solomon's death, the kingdom is split. So Rehoboam goes back and he assembles an army. He assembles an army, and now he's going to go to war with his brethren. Okay? With Jeroboam. Okay? He's going to go to war he's going to try to force Israel back together. All right? So let's move on with this. But the word of God came to Shemaiah, the man of God, saying, Speak unto Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, king of Judah, and to all in Judah and Benjamin, saying, okay? See, so this right here is even before the Levites went back to Judah. Because the Lord is only naming right here, he's only naming Judah, and he's naming Benjamin. So Levi was yet with the other tribes at this time. So thus saith the Lord, ye shall not go up, nor fight against your brethren. Return every man to his house, for this thing is done of me. And they obeyed the words of the Lord and returned from going up against Jeroboam. And Rehoboam dwelt in Jerusalem and built cities for defense in Judah. Okay? So now Rehoboam, he want to go up. He want to go against his brethren. He want to bring the kingdom back into the fold. But the Lord said, no, no, no. Don't do that. This is not what I want. This thing is done to me. I have a reason for doing what I've done. Now you do not go to war against your brethren. You do not go up against and fight your brethren. You back down, take it easy, and you stay in your place because I'm not ready for this at this time. So now what are we talking about? Because we see right here that the Lord clearly put a stop to Rehoboam, king of Judah, going out to war against his brethren to bring all the tribes back together. So the Lord is saying to him, now this is of me. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay? So he sent the prophet and he listened and he followed the words of the Almighty. So let's go back a little deeper and see exactly what is going on and see what happened, why the Lord did this thing. Okay? So let's go to First Kings. Oh, I can't hardly see. First Kings. Let's go to 11. First Kings, chapter 11. First Kings, chapter 11. And let me see. I'm gonna do. Let's just read the whole thing. Go through chapter 11, verses 1 through 28. Oh my goodness, why is that happening? Uh, okay, sorry about that. Let me turn this volume down. I don't know why anybody calling me on the Sabbath anyway. What's the point? But anyway, turn this volume down a little bit. Okay. So, First Kings chapter 11. The only reason why I don't want to waste 13 minutes of my talking. So, please excuse me for that phone going off. Okay. Here we go. Here's a little bit of history. Why the Lord did what he did in splitting up the kingdom of Israel. Okay. But Solomon loved many women, many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites and Amorites and Edomites and the Zebulans and the Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go in to them, neither shall they come in unto you. Surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon cleaved unto these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. And his wives turned away his heart, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect before the Lord, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zildans. Please forgive me with these pronunciations. And after Milcom and abortion of the Amorites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord and went not fully after the Lord as did David his father. So I'm going to kind of skip down through this because you can go back and you can read this for yourself. This is First Kings, the 11th chapter, and this tells the whole story about the reason the Lord took away the kingdom from Solomon. Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, verse 11, wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, for as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee and will give it to thy servant. So the Lord is telling Solomon, because you have gone away from the commandments and you have served these other gods, and I told you to stay away from them strange women, but you chose not to, and now look at you, you're all in a pickle. Okay? So he said, now I'm going to rend, which is to tear the kingdom away from you, and I will give it to thy servant. Notwithstanding, in thy days I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hands of thy son. So Solomon sinned, but the sin fell on the son. Because 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 Solomon sinned, but because David's heart, King David's heart, was pure and after the Lord, so the Lord say, I'm not going to do this in your time. I'm not going to do this in your lifetime, but I'm going to do this to your son. Okay? I'm going to do this when your son takes over. Howbeit, I will not rend all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David, my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. So he's saying, I'm not going to take the whole kingdom, but I'm going to give Rehoboam one tribe. So you had Judah, and he's going to give him one more tribe. Okay? But the other 10 was to be taken away and separate and out of the hand of Rehoboam. Okay? Now, this is all because of Solomon's idolatry. This is all because of what he did. And the only reason Rehoboam is getting a second tribe, as the scriptures say, it goes back to David, because of David's heart, because David followed the commandments and he was right with God. So then the Lord said, because of my servants David's is I will give this tribe to Rehoboam. He said your son, but it's Rehoboam who he's talking about. And the Lord stirred up an adversary unto Solomon, Hadad, the son the Edomite. He was of the king's seed. Okay, well, we're gonna skip that because that's when um that's more of a different story. So now let's go on over here to verse 26. It said, now Jeroboam the son of Nebat, Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who was the servant of Solomon, because the scriptures say he's going to rend the kingdom from him and give it to his servant. So Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephraimite, means that he was from the tribe of Ephraim, of Judea, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zariah, a widow woman. Even he lifted up his hand against the king. And this was the cause that lifted up his hands against the king. Solomon built Millo and repaired the breaches of the city of David his father. And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. And Solomon, seeing the young man, at that he was industrious, and he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. And it came to pass at that time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem that the prophet Abijah, the Shilonite, fought him in the way, or sought him in the way, or found him in the way. And he had clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field. Now, this is when the prophet met Jeroboam in the field, and he basically let him know that he was going to be king over the other tribes of Israel. Okay, so this was setting up. This was the setting up of the split So it goes over here in verse 34. It says, howbeit I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hands. He's telling Jeroboam, I'm not going to take the whole kingdom out of Rehoboam's hands, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David's my servant's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes. So David kept his commandments and his statutes, and because he did so, that means a lot. It carried a lot of weight. So then, therefore, when the Lord sought to tear the kingdom away from Solomon, then he did not take the whole kingdom out of the house of David. But he left Rehoboam, as I said, one tribe. Okay. But I will take the kingdom out of his hand and give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. See, this is the Lord telling through the prophet that he's going to take the kingdom out of the hands of Rehoboam and give it to Jeroboam. He's going to give him 10 tribes. Now we know the children of Israel was 12 tribes, right? So he was going to take 10 tribes from Jeroboam and give to Rehoboam, I'm sorry, and give them to Jeroboam. And unto his son will I give one tribe. He's speaking about Solomon now. Okay. Unto his son, Solomon's son, Jeroboam, I will give one tribe, and David my servant may have a light always before me in Jerusalem. So then that's what the Lord is saying. I'm gonna give Jeroboam one tribe that David may have a light in Jerusalem always. That means, his heritage would continue uh, in Jerusalem. Okay. And I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desires, and shall be king over Israel. And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto if thou wilt hearken unto all that I command thee, and will walk in my ways, and do that is right in my sight, and keep my statutes and my commandments, as David thy servant did, that I will be with thee, and build thee a sure house, as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee. So this is the Lord letting Jeroboam know that if you keep the commandments, I'm going to give you 10 tribes. And if you keep the commandments, I am going to build you a sure house. But if you do like David did, then you will be um, a a blessed king. That's basically what he's saying. And I will build you a sure house. Okay? And now let's go over here to the 12th chapter. Let's go over here to the 12th chapter. I'm going to read verses 1 through 5, and then I'm going to read 28 through 35. This is going to establish the breakdown. This is going to establish the breakdown of the tribes of Israel. Okay? And Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel were come to Shechem to make him king. Now this is after Solomon, and he is going to be inaugurated king or crowned king. All right, and it came to pass when Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who was yet in Egypt, heard of it, for he had fled from the presence of King Solomon, and Jeroboam dwelt in Egypt. Verse 4. Well, I'm going to start with verse 3. That they sent and called him, and Jeroboam and all the congregation of Israel came and spoke unto Rehoboam, saying, Thy father made our yoke grievous. Now therefore make thou his heavy yoke, which is be upon us, lighter, and we will serve thee. And he said unto them, Depart for 3 days, then come again to me. And the people departed. So now Jeroboam had already got instructions that he was going to be king. But right here, when they went to crown Rehoboam, Jeroboam yet said, look, your father made your father was hard on us and made our task hard. Now, if you lighten up on us, then we will follow you. We will follow you. But what Jeroboam asked, he said, go away for 3 days. After 3 days, come again, and I will give you an answer. But I'm going to cut through the chase, because they did come again. And then Rehoboam had talked to his advisors. He had the ones that came up with him. So these was the older, with him. And then he had those who were advisors, who had been probably advisors to his father, the king. And the ones that came up with him gave him advice that they should make their yoke harder and not easier. And Jeroboam listened to the ones he came up with, his friends, I guess, so to speak. Okay? So, I'm going to go to verse 12. So Jeroboam and all of the people came to Rehoboam the 3rd day, as the king had appointed, saying, come to me again the 3rd day. And the king answered the people roughly, okay, and forsook the old men's counsel that they gave him. So he spoke to them roughly, and he forsook the old men's counseling, the seasoned men's counseling that they had gave him, and took to them after, and spoke to them after the counsel of the young men. Okay? My father made your yokes heavy, and I will add to your yoke. My father also chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. Wherefore the king hearkened not to the people, for the cause was from the Lord, that he might perform his sayings, which the Lord spake by Ahijah the Shilonite unto Jeroboam the son of Nebat. So even though there was a way of escape for Jeroboam, because all he had to do was listen to the older men and to make the yoke lighter for the other tribes, yet he did not listen. He listened to the young men. He listened to the young men. But the scriptures are saying right here, but this was done of the Lord. So as Pharaoh, I'd be comfortable as saying, as Pharaoh, as the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he would not let the people go, he also hardened Jeroboam's heart Rehoboam's heart, that he would not lighten the yoke of the other tribes of Israel, wherein the prophecy could be fulfilled, where the Lord has said he was going to tear the kingdom away from the house of Solomon. And Jeroboam would only be left with one tribe other than the tribe of Judah. So, verse 16. So when all Israel saw the king hearken not unto them, the people answered the king, saying, what portion have we in David? Neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel, now see to thine own house. David. So Israel departed unto their tents. So what they're saying is the children of Israel got upset, and they was like, oh, you want to make our yokes harder? You going to treat us like this? No, you tend to your own tents. You do your own thing. Look, we going our own way. We going to tend to our tents. But as for the children of Israel, which dwelt in the cities of Judah, Jeroboam reigned over them. So the ones that dwelt in Jerusalem, Jeroboam reigned over them. I said cities of Jerusalem, but it's the cities of Judah. So whatever cities that Judah covered, okay? And so, but we know that it was Benjamin, and we know that it was Benjamin, and then it was to be Levi. So Israel rebelled against the house of David unto this day. And it came to pass when all Israel heard that Jeroboam was come again, that they sent and called him into the congregation and made him king over all Israel, where none had followed the house of David, but the tribe of Judah only. And when Rehoboam was coming to Jerusalem, he assembled all the house of Judah and with the tribe of Benjamin. Now, we went through that just a few minutes ago, where he wanted to go out and fight against against Jeroboam and the other tribes, and the Lord told him not so, because this thing was done of him. So then that put an end to the war, that was the beginning of the split of the two kingdoms. Okay? So let me see. So 12, 37, 27 to 31. So now this is the thing. When Jeroboam was made king, this is what he did. Now let's see what he did after he made king, and the Lord let him know that because of the sins of Solomon, he made him king and gave him the 10 tribes. But this is what he did after he secured the kingdom. Listen to them. Verse 27. Verse 26. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David. So now he's worried. He got the kingdom, but he's worried. He's worried whether he's going to lose power or not. Okay? So what he do? He says, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David. If this people go up to sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again to their Lord, even unto Rehoboam, king of Judah, and they shall kill me, and go again to Rehoboam, king of Judah. So this is Jeroboam, king of Israel, of the 10 tribes. But see, he knew that you still had to sacrifice. And they knew that you had to go to Jerusalem on certain times of the year. 3 times a year, the males had to come to Jerusalem. And they had to do sacrifices 3 times a year. So this is him. He's reasoning out in himself. Wait a minute. Now, if I leave this like it's supposed to be, and then they return back to Jerusalem at these times to do this sacrifices, wait a minute, their heart is going to turn back to the Lord. And then perhaps they're going to kill me, and then they will return to Jerusalem, and then they will return to Rehoboam. Wherefore the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Now you you're talking about you're talking about a big lie. Now these people, it's been hundreds of years since they came out of Egypt. Everybody knows there was no gold calves that brought them out of Egypt. Everybody knows that when they made the golden calf at the foot of Mount Sinai, and the prophet Moses came down and out of the mountain, and the Lord slew over 3,000 souls because they had committed idolatry while the prophet Moses was in the mountain. But here, this fool, this king, where the Lord then took out of the hands of the house of David and gave him 10 out of the 12 tribes. And he devised this scheme to keep the people out of Jerusalem, to keep them from sacrificing and serving God. So what did he say? He said, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. It's too much for you to travel that far. Why are you going to travel that far? It's too much. So this is what, it's too much for you to travel up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods. Behold thy gods. Look at your gods. 2 golden calves. Okay? He made 2 golden calves, 2 calves of gold. It is too much for you to go to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Not only did he set up idolatry, but he set up a bed of lies at the same time. And he set one in, Bethel, and he set the other one in Dan. And this king became a sin. This king, this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan. So the people hearkened or listened to Jeroboam and went to these different places where he had set up these golden calves to worship. And they did not go to Jerusalem. Okay? And Jeroboam ordained a feast in the 8th month of the 15th day of the month, like unto the feast that is in Judah. And he offered upon the altar, so did he in Bethel, sacrificing unto the calves that he had made. And he placed in Bethel the priest of the high places which he made. So not only he even put priests in the high places that he made to sacrifice. So he offered upon the altar which he had made in Bethel the 15th day of the 8th month, in the month which he had devised of his own heart, and ordained a feast unto the children of Israel, and he offered upon the altar and burnt offerings. So Jeroboam, after he became king, he himself turned to idolatry. And not only did he return to idolatry, but he caused 9 tribes to turn to idolatry, because the Levites, because he kicked them out. He told them they wasn't going to sacrifice. He got men of the lowest estate to be the high priest. What do you mean the lowest estate? He got men that were basically, you could call them shysters, you could call them bums, you can call them swindlers, because they had to be yes men. They had to be people that would do and obey the will of the king. And he did not want them sacrificing or going to Jerusalem. So he had his men, the people that he put in power, to keep Israel distracted from the true and living God. So that is the kind of the background of the 2 sticks and how they came about. It was all about Solomon committing idolatry, building temples to these gods and goddesses of the wives that he had, who got next to him when he was old. So that's how the one kingdom was split into 2. And this is the prophecy of the 2 kingdoms coming back together. I wanted to give just a little bit of history about what was going on, because you start talking about, well, wait a minute, you take one stick and write for this tribe, you take another stick and you write to that tribe, and you join the two sticks together. Weren't they one tribe? They was until Solomon sinned, until King Solomon committed idolatry, and the Lord took the 10 tribes out of the house of David and away from Rehoboam, and only gave him one tribe. He ended up with two because Jeroboam went into idolatry and kicked the Levites out, would not let them do the service in which they were commanded to do. And in doing so, they went back to Jerusalem, and they went and served under Rehoboam the king. So, verse 17, and when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by this? So now he's getting ready to give the explanation of what they mean by these two sticks. Because I have to be honest, for a long while I was confused. I did not understand this, and I'm going to be honest, I really did not understand this. But thanks be to God that I was shown the light and was shown the meaning of this chapter. And then I was able to go and search out and find the true meanings, and how this is not only to uh, um, to the children of Israel when they broke up back in right after Solomon's time, but this is still in play today. But we don't see it. Well, a lot of us don't see it. So many of us do see it. Because Ezekiel 37 and Romans 10 is still in effect. Wherein I will be moving to Romans 10 after I finish with Ezekiel 37, because they correlate with one another. That Romans 10, the Apostle Paul is basically talking about what went on here in Ezekiel 37. So say unto them, saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel his fellows, and I will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand. Now, when we think about it, and we really get into the scriptures and we research it, I know I'm pushing forward a little bit, but see, this is why the Messiah Christ came. Because the scriptures say he come to save his people. His people. He come to redeem his people. You can't redeem something that never belonged to you. Can I come to you and redeem some money out of your wallet? Your reaction is, being, you crazy, you a thief. Well, if I'm redeeming it, that's me saying it's mine. It belonged to me. It may have been lost, it may have been misplaced, but now I'm reclaiming it because it belongs to me. That's what redeeming means. So, one stick in mine hand, and the sticks wherein thou writest shall be in thine hand before their eyes. And say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whether they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. You see? Because the children of Israel were scattered all over the world, all over the nations. When Rome invaded Israel in 70 AD, they scattered. Those people went into the mountains. They went into West Africa. Oh my God, you can get into some history and you can see where the Israelites, they took their culture, they took everything, their religion. They said their religion, their culture, everything into West Africa. They was all along the coast of West Africa, from Sierra Leone down through Senegal, Ghana. They were all over the place. So, 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 but then the slave trade came about, and then they were shipped. They were shipped overseas, right? They were shipped overseas, and this is what, see, when you ain't keeping the commandments of God. See, people talk about Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, but see, they talk about the blessings. They talk about the blessings. But let me tell you, just like there was blessings, there was also curses. The Lord told them in the beginning, if you keep my commandment, these blessings you will get. Okay? But if you do not keep my commandments, okay, this is what you shall get. All right? So the Israelites, they were carried away to all parts of the world. They were carried into Arabia. The Arabia had a robust slave trade. Portugal, they were they 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 carried a big part of it. It was said in some circles that they started the slave trade, but I'm not too certain about that, because um, England was involved in it, and Spain was involved in it, and well, when Israel was in Portugal, they basically kicked them out, and the ones that didn't leave, they did put them into slavery. They did put them into slavery. So so that is true. So where we at here? Okay. Uh-oh, I done went a long way off here. Okay, we at there we go. So then so then so then the Lord is was telling Ezekiel about how these people were going to be gathered together back from every nation. Over in the other part, it was saying he will, in verse 12 and 13, he was talking about opening their graves, okay, and that he will bring them back into their own land. So that their graves is a similitude to the places where they had been scattered. Okay? And say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whether they be gone, and will gather them every side, and bring them into their own land. Verse 12. I'm sorry, that was verse 21. Now, verse 12. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, Thus saith the Lord, Behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you unto the land of Israel. Verse 21. And say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God, I will take thee, children of Israel, from among the heathen, whether they be gone, and will gather them every side and bring them to their own land. So in verse 12, it used the similitude as the grave to the lands that they had been carried away to. Okay? They had been carried away to. Verse 22. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel. And there, and one king shall be king to them all, as they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore. So this has not happened yet. This right here is yet to happen because we are yet scattered through all nations. We have not been brought out of our nations of captivity. We are yet in the hand of the heathen. So you want to jump around and say you are free? You are free of what? Huh? You are free to do what they tell you to do. You are free to keep their laws. Huh? You are free now to be a homosexual. But that's not God's law because God's law says it's an abomination. So you are free to do a lot of things that they say you are free to do. But according to God's law, you are not free at all. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of their dwelling places where they have sinned, and will cleanse them from all, and shall cleanse them, so shall they be my people, and I will be their God. So he's saying he's coming in these places where we are, wherever you are, in North America, in Central America, in South America, in Canada, in in Africa, in the Philippines, wherever you may be, in Switzerland, wherever you may be. He's coming and he's going to bring you out of those lands. And David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they shall have one shepherd, and they shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and to do them. See, you got so many people talking about today, oh, you ain't got to keep the commandments, you ain't got to do this, you ain't got to do that. But the Lord is saying right here, they shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them. And here's another similitude. And it said, and David, my servant, shall be king over them. Well, David, isn't David sleeping? No, David, this is a similitude talking about the Messiah. He shall be king over them when he come. He shall be king when we are pulled out of our captivity and we are back in the land of Judah in Israel, then the Lord shall be, he shall, um, and David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they shall have one shepherd. So the one shepherd is the Messiah, Christ, in our tongue, Jesus the Christ. The shepherd is the Messiah. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant. Are we in that land right now? No, we're not. We are still in the valley of dry bones. Although the bones are now coming together, although the bones now are getting the breath of life, and the body is being built together, and the breath of life is coming into the bones, and they're starting to stand up that exceedingly great army. These we are these dry bones. We that are awakened are are the ones that are already starting to wake up, and the spirit is in us, and the breath of life is in us because we are walking in the commandments of God and keeping the commandments of God. But all has not been fulfilled yet because there are more yet to come. There are more yet to be awakened to this truth. Before the Almighty comes and bring us up out of this land of captivity. Somebody might get offended because I say land of captivity. If you get offended, then be offended because this is the land of our captivity. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and I will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forever. Hebrews 8 and 10. Hebrews 8 and 10. Hebrews 8 and 10. Hebrews 8 and 10. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind, and into their hearts will I write them. And I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. So the Lord isn't among us right now. He's not dwelling among us right now. So we are still in Ezekiel 37. And the ones that's reading over this, they need to go and get back into the history so they can understand this, so that they can get a true understanding and just stop talking about, oh, because I was in sin, these dry bones in sin, so prophesy these dry bones and they wake up out of sin. Well, it's much more to that. It's much more to that. Not only is this talking about sin, this is talking about a nation of people coming back together that had been torn apart because of the sins of Solomon. I'm sorry, because of the sins of King Solomon. I don't mean nor desire to disrespect none of my forefathers. So then we're talking about this covenant that he's going to make with us, and he's going to be our God, and we're going to be his people. Why? Because he's going to put the breath of life in us. Now, we that are awakened, we have the breath of life. We have it. So now it's our duty to put it out there for other people to get it. Because we don't want to see people out there walking dead. Walking dead. They're not dead. You see that TV show, The Walking Dead? Well, that is what people are who are outside of the will of God. They are the walking dead. Do you want to get offended? Well, I don't get offended, because you know what? At one time, I was one of the walking dead. But thanks be to God, who have brought me the breath of life and allowed me to be able to see and to be awakened and to get into this word. It is my duty and my job to expound on this word, that others may see and wake up also. I don't need to get up and make something sound good about the hip bone connected to the backbone, and the backbone connected to the shoulder bone, and the shoulder bone connected to the neck bone, and all of that foolishness. I don't need to do all that. I don't need to have the music playing up and down, because see, people need to understand and stop listening and stop moving as to emotion. If you want to get emotional about something, get emotional about this word. Get emotional about the truth of this word and walking in the commandments and the laws and statutes of the Almighty. Because I promise you, if you don't heed to this word, you're going to be sorry later. And I'm going to say one thing. We, by faith, hold on. Because the scripture says, he that endureth until the end, the same that shall be saved. I'm not talking about being self-righteous or more righteous than any of my brothers and sisters, but I am talking about my brothers and sisters need to get this word and understand it better and be able to apply it to their lives. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Is God's tabernacle here yet? Because the book of Revelation said he saw a new heaven, new earth. He saw a new Jerusalem coming down. Have anybody seen the new Jerusalem come down? Huh? No, you haven't seen it because it hasn't gotten here yet. And this right here, Ezekiel the 37th chapter, is not in fulfillment yet. We are yet living in Ezekiel the 37th chapter. And the heathen shall know that I, the Lord, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst forevermore. Revelations 21. Let's see what Revelations 21 got to say about that. Revelation 21. Revelations 21. 1. Starting at verse 1. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. That's verse 3. Verse 28 of Ezekiel 37. And the heathen shall know that I, the Lord, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. Revelations 21 and 3. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he shall dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them forevermore. That hasn't happened yet. So we are yet living in Ezekiel, the 37th chapter. So when we're talking about the dry bones, let's talk about the dry bones that don't know their identity, that don't know that you are Israel, that don't know that You say, "Oh, I am a child of God." You say that I follow the word of God, but you follow that which you want to follow. You follow that which is convenient to follow. You and a lot of other people, even as I at one time, had a disobedient spirit because I wanted to do certain things. But glory be to God that He gave me the spirit of obedience, and I took on the spirit of righteousness, the spirit of life, that I can walk after the commandments of the Almighty and to do them. Let's see what the scripture just came to my mind. I don't know why people say Saint Matthew, Saint Mark, Saint Luke, Saint John, but then when they get to the rest of them, they talk to apostle this and apostle that. But I guess because they walked with Christ, I guess that's why they say saint. But anyway, John, Saint John, chapter 14, verse 15. If you love me, keep my commandments. If you love me, keep my commandments. Another writer said, blessed are they that keep his commandments and to do them. So that is Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, the valley of dry bones, which are not dry bones, but are the children of Israel, which are scattered throughout the nations and do not have life because they do not have the commandments, either by omission or commission. But it's either way you look at it, there's too many avenues for us not to educate ourselves and be able to come to an understanding about who we are as a people. If you say you are the people of God, then you are saying you are a follower. For the Apostle Paul said, follow me even as I follow Christ. Well, if you're going to follow the Apostle Paul, then he's doing everything that Christ did. Then you must do everything that he did. If he's saying, I am the example, then you are following not only the example but of Christ, but the example of the Apostle Paul. And not only the Apostle Paul, but all the other apostles that went before us, our forefathers. These are our forefathers. When we get out of our head that 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 these people are white, these are not white people. There was no white people, okay, in that land until the Romans and the Greeks. Well, the Greeks was first. Alexander the Greek. He was the first one to start invading those lands. And then after Alexander, then um, the ones that followed him, the four kings that followed him, and then after that, then you had the Romans. So then the Edomites, they lived in their own land up into Mount Seir, and then they went off into um, they went off into other parts of the country, but when they broke away from David, I believe it was, you know, and then they were just basically what you call instigators against Israel until they got chased up into the Caucasus Mountains, where they stayed for probably hundreds up to 1,000 years until until the Renaissance period. See, we need to get in here and learn some of this history. But the thing is, Ezekiel the 37th chapter, we are still living in Ezekiel the 37th chapter right now. And so therefore the dry bones are the people that needs to be waken up, and the breath of life, be put into them, that they turn back to the Almighty, come to the knowledge of who they are. Once you come to the knowledge and understanding of who you are, you would have no problem with understanding the truth of who you are. For this is the truth of who we are. This is our history book. Right here. Right here. When they have Black History Month every February, this right here should be number one. Right here. Because this is where our history is beyond the slave ships. Beyond the slave ships. This is not African American history. This is our history, the Israelites, who we are, the true people of God. Shalom. Happy Sabbath.